Did you know it's technically illegal to handle a salmon suspiciously in parts of the UK? Or that in one British city, you could still be allowed to shoot a Scotsman with a bow and arrow under very specific conditions? Sounds absurd, right? But here's the thing. These bizarre laws and traditions are real. Some are centuries old, buried deep in medieval history, and some are still quietly written in the books today. From towns that banned duck racing to cities where playing a trumpet on a Sunday can get you fined, the UK might just have the strangest local rules in the world. But why do these laws even exist? Who made them? And why haven't they been removed after hundreds of years? Stay with me, because as we count down 10 UK towns with the weirdest local laws and traditions, you'll discover how war, superstition, and pure British eccentricity shaped rules that still echo through modern life. And trust me, you'll want to see which town made it to number 1. It's so ridiculous, you'll never believe it's still technically illegal today. Number 10. Cornwall, no eating ice cream on the beach after 8 p.m. Picture this. It's a warm summer evening in Cornwall. The sun's dipping over the horizon, the waves are glowing gold, and you're enjoying that perfect seaside moment. Until a local warden strolls up and says, "Sorry, you'll have to put that ice cream away. It's after 8 p.m. Sounds like a joke, right? But this quirky bylaw actually existed in parts of Cornwall's coastal towns. The rule banned people from eating ice cream or other snacks on the beach after 8 p.m., all in the name of keeping the sands clean overnight. Back in the 1950s and 60s, Cornwall's beaches were swarmed with tourists, and local councils struggled to deal with litter left behind. So the rule wasn't about killing your dessert vibe, it was about discouraging late-night snacking that turned beaches into sticky, sugary messes. Technically, the law isn't heavily enforced today, but some old signage still lingers, a nostalgic reminder of when beach control went a little too far. And honestly, it kind of captures the British spirit perfectly. We love rules, even for ice cream. But here's the funny twist. Despite the curfew, locals say that eating a cone under the stars just past 8 p.m. became a quiet act of rebellion. Because really, what's summer in Cornwall without a late-night scoop of vanilla while the tide rolls in? Number 9. Blackpool. No singing while drunk. Imagine you're in Blackpool on a Saturday night, neon lights glowing, laughter spilling out of pubs, karaoke bars echoing with off-key renditions of Sweet Caroline. It's the sound of British nightlife at its finest. But according to an old local law, all of that could technically get you in trouble. Yes, in Blackpool, it's illegal to sing in public while intoxicated. The rule dates back to the 1800s and was originally designed to stop disorderly behavior in the streets after closing time. Local officials wanted to keep the seaside resort respectable for Victorian tourists, so singing, especially after a few too many pints, was banned. Of course, this law was more symbolic than strict. It wasn't about silencing fun. It was about maintaining order when holidaymakers got a little too merry. But here's the funny part. Even today, police can technically use this law under the Licensing Act if someone's singing becomes a public nuisance. So next time you're belting out your favorite song on the Blackpool promenade after midnight, you might be breaking the law in the most joyful way possible. Now I'm curious, if this rule still applied, which song would you risk a fine for singing after a few drinks? Drop your answer in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more strange and hilarious laws still lurking across the UK. Number 8. Winchester. It's illegal to die in Parliament. Every country has its odd superstitions, but Britain turned one of them into law. Somewhere between legend and legality lies this bizarre claim: it's illegal to die in the Houses of Parliament. And while the myth usually gets attached to Westminster, it's actually in Winchester where the story finds its strange royal twist. Here's how it goes. Centuries ago, dying inside a royal building meant something very specific. You technically died on royal ground. That meant your body instantly qualified for a state funeral. So to avoid the awkward problem of random commoners accidentally qualifying for royal burials, someone decided it was best if people simply didn't die there. Of course, no one can actually stop you from dying. But the phrase "illegal to die" captured the British sense of bureaucratic absurdity perfectly. It wasn't really about the act of dying, it was about what happened next. Even now, this odd piece of folklore lingers in the public imagination, repeated in trivia books and pub quizzes. And perhaps that's the most British thing about it, a rule so strange, so logically impossible, that it must have started as a joke, but was taken seriously enough to become a legend. Because in a country that once banned suspicious salmon handling, saying you can't die in Parliament doesn't sound that ridiculous, it almost sounds expected. Number 7. Bath. You can't take a bath in the Roman baths. Bath, a city named after bathing, yet ironically, it's the one place in Britain where taking a bath could get you into serious trouble. It sounds like a setup for a bad joke, but this law is real. You can visit the Roman baths, you can admire their warm, misty waters, but under no circumstances are you allowed to step in. The roots of this ban go back to the late 1970s, when scientists discovered that the ancient spring water, once believed to heal everything from arthritis to heartbreak, was actually contaminated with dangerous bacteria. After a young woman tragically died from meningitis traced back to the waters, Bath's famous pools were permanently closed to public bathing. And so, a place once filled with chatter, steam, and laughter became a silent monument, beautiful but untouchable. It's strange, isn't it? A city that built its identity on healing waters now protects them from human touch. Yet there's something hauntingly poetic about that. The Roman baths aren't gone, they've simply transformed from a ritual to a relic, frozen in time like the past itself. So while you can't bathe there anymore, standing beside those shimmering green pools still feels like touching history, without ever dipping a toe. Number 6. Cambridge. No public duck racing. Cambridge, a city of world-class thinkers, historic colleges, and apparently outlawed duck racing. Yes, you heard that right. Amid all the scholarly debates and rowing competitions, Cambridge once had a law banning public duck races. And it wasn't because ducks were too competitive, it was because humans were. Back in the early 2000s, a few community events along the River Cam featured light-hearted duck races where hundreds of rubber ducks floated downstream, raising money for charity. Sounds innocent enough, right? But local authorities worried that the events were drawing too many people to restricted waterways and causing minor chaos. The result? An official notice banning unauthorized duck racing in public areas. And here's where it gets funny. Rather than ending the tradition, locals just got sneakier. Secret duck derbies started popping up, quiet little rebellions against the bureaucratic buzzkill. Organizers would announce races last minute or in private sections of the river, turning it into a game of cat and mouse between rule-makers and rubber ducks. The law itself might sound absurd, but it reflects something beautifully British, that even the most playful traditions can spark a full-on administrative debate. In the end, Cambridge proved one thing: you can take away the ducks, but you can't stop the fun. Because sometimes a little silliness is the smartest protest of all. Number 5. Oxford. It's illegal to play the trumpet in public on Sundays. Ah, Oxford, the city of dreaming spires, scholarly debates, and trumpet bands. Yes, tucked among its centuries-old traditions and intellectual prestige is one rather unmusical rule. It's technically illegal to play the trumpet in public on Sundays. This odd restriction comes from the old Sabbath laws dating back to a time when Sundays were meant for rest, worship, and absolutely no noise that could disturb the peace, not even a cheerful toot of brass. Back then, music was often seen as a distraction from moral duty. So street musicians, performers, and even students were told to keep quiet. Of course, this being Oxford, a place famous for clever rebellion, students have occasionally tested the rule, turning the quietest day of the week into a low-key symphony of irony. Trumpets echoing through cobbled lanes, half in jest, half in protest. Today, no one's actually enforcing this rule. It lingers more as a charming relic, a reminder of how tradition and eccentricity often collide in British life. But there's something poetic in it, isn't there? The idea that a city known for its brilliant minds also made space for such wonderfully absurd regulations. Because in Oxford, even silence has a story. And sometimes the loudest thing you can do is quietly break the rules. Number 4. London. No carrying planks on the pavement. Of all the strange laws still technically active in Britain, this one might just be peak London. It's illegal to carry a plank of wood along the pavement. Yes, under the Metropolitan Streets Act of 1867, tradesmen, builders, or anyone casually strolling through London with a big piece of timber could be fined. The idea was simple: keep the streets clear and pedestrians safe from swinging planks and chaotic traffic. Back then, London was a maze of horse-drawn carriages, street vendors, and narrow walkways. One careless move with a piece of wood and someone could end up in the gutter. So, like any sensible city, lawmakers decided, no more planks. Fast forward more than 150 years later, and the law technically still exists. You could walk past the Shard carrying an iPhone, a coffee, and your self-confidence. But add a plank to the mix, and suddenly you're a walking legal hazard. It's ridiculous, but also weirdly logical. London's always been about order in chaos. The city built rules for everything: traffic, pigeons, even wooden boards. And honestly, this one says a lot about British bureaucracy. Once a law is written, it practically becomes immortal. So next time you're helping a mate move house through central London, maybe skip the plank, or at least carry it with historical awareness. Number 3. Liverpool. Don't let your donkey sleep in the bathtub. Liverpool has seen a lot of strange things in its history: the Beatles, football miracles, and now donkey bathtub bans. Yes, once upon a time it was illegal in Liverpool to let your donkey sleep in a bathtub. It sounds completely ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. But like many bizarre British laws, it started with a bit of practical logic. In the early 1900s, donkeys were a common sight across coastal towns. They worked long days pulling carts or giving rides to children along the beaches. When night fell, some owners, and especially those living near the shore, would bring their animals inside to keep them warm. And where was the perfect fit for a small donkey? A bathtub. Then came the problem. Heavy rains, overflowing drains, and unstable old plumbing meant bathtubs could sometimes fill or even float, with a sleeping donkey inside. Cue chaos. One particularly famous case involved flooding, a panicked donkey, and a broken water main. After that, local councils decided enough was enough. Bathtubs were for people, not for livestock. Today, the law lingers as a hilarious reminder of just how literally Britain takes its rules. And while Liverpool's donkeys now rest safely elsewhere, this quirky bylaw proves one thing: in the UK, even bedtime routines can be regulated. Number 2. Chester. Curfew for the Welsh after sunset. Picture medieval Chester, a walled fortress city standing on the edge of England and Wales. The year is the 1400s. The streets are narrow, the tension is thick, and the guards at the gates have one strict order: no Welsh person is allowed inside the city after sunset. It sounds unbelievable today, but this ancient curfew law was very real. After centuries of border conflict between the English and the Welsh, the city of Chester, a key military outpost, imposed the rule as a form of control. If you were Welsh, you had to leave before the sun went down. If you were found inside after dark, you could be arrested, or worse. It wasn't just paranoia, it was fear disguised as law. The curfew reflected a time when kingdoms were constantly at odds, and identity itself could be treated like a threat. Over the centuries, of course, the rule faded into absurdity. Chester today celebrates Welsh culture proudly, full of music, trade, and friendship across the border. But the story of that old curfew still lingers like a shadow in the city's folklore. It's a haunting reminder of how history evolves, that what once divided people by fear can now unite them through irony. Because nothing ages faster than prejudice, except perhaps the laws that once tried to enforce it. Number 1. York. It's legal to kill a Scotsman, but only under certain conditions. At the top of our list sits one of the most famous and most shocking laws in all of Britain's history. According to legend, it's legal to kill a Scotsman within the city walls of York, but only if he's carrying a bow and arrow. Sounds barbaric, right? But this law isn't a joke. It's a ghost from medieval times, born out of centuries of warfare between England and Scotland. Back then, York stood as a key defensive stronghold. When tensions were high, local statutes allowed soldiers to eliminate threats who entered the city armed. The detail about the bow and arrow wasn't about sport, it was about survival. Any armed Scotsman was seen as an enemy of the crown, and so this chilling rule became part of local law, passed down through generations like a grim piece of trivia. Of course, today, this law is completely obsolete. Murder is still murder, no matter how old the statute. But what fascinates people is how it survived on paper for so long, buried deep in the archives of outdated laws. It's a reminder that history leaves fingerprints everywhere, even in the laws we laugh at now. And maybe that's why Britain's legal oddities are so captivating. Behind every ridiculous rule lies a story of fear, defense, and time itself refusing to let go. And there you have it, 10 of the strangest laws ever written into British history. Which one blew your mind the most? Tell us in the comments, we read every single one. If you enjoyed this wild ride through the UK's weirdest traditions, go check out our previous video. It's just as unbelievable. We pour hours of research and storytelling into every upload, so if you'd like to support us, please subscribe. It's just one click, but it means the world to us.